The at-home remote model that we've been able to develop with LiveU, it's really completely changed our business. The biggest thing for us as a business is it has allowed us to scale and to grow a lot faster than we would have before. Where previously with the traditional model, we're sort of limited by the number of either trucks or trailers or fly pack systems that we can get out on site at a venue. With the at-home model, all we need on site are cameras and LiveU transmission units. So that's allowed us to take on a lot more work. You know, we started doing this just last March, less than a year ago, and I think we've done close to 100 events this way. And I'd say about half of that are shows that we would have not otherwise been able to take on because we simply didn't have enough equipment and enough crew to take on shows that were back-to-back-to-back days, or in some cases, like this past fall during football season, we had days where we were doing 3-4 shows in the same day. But we had multiple camera systems with LiveU packs out in these different venues. Coming into a studio, we're able to do multiple shows a day, or certainly shows on back-to-back-to-back days. So that's definitely the biggest thing from a business perspective, is allowing us to grow and take on a lot more projects than we would have been able to before. The other big thing is cost savings. As you can imagine, it costs a lot less money to fly one person out to a venue. We're able to send one person with basically 4 cases with our cameras and our LiveU equipment out to a venue. So we stick that person on an airplane, fly them all over the country. Everybody else is back at the studio. So we're basically traveling one person and hiring local camera operators in the venue, out in the region. Everybody else is back home. So there's a lot of savings from a travel perspective. We're also making more efficient use of our equipment infrastructure, where again, previously we would have had to have a system that duplicates what we have here in the studio out at every event, typically in a truck or a trailer or a fly pack out in the venue. And you can only have one of those at a venue at a time. Now we've got one infrastructure set up here at the studio, and again, we're doing multiple shows in a day or shows back-to-back days. So we're getting more shows done with the same equipment infrastructure, so there's savings there too. And ultimately, that translates into us being able to pass that on to our customers. So for our existing customers, we're able to do more with their current budget. So we're able to deliver more live shows for them with the same amount of money that they were spending with us before to do a lot less shows. And we're able to take on new customers that have lower budgets, and we're able to hit a cost structure that fits their budget. So we do a lot of work in sports, music, and a little bit in the corporate world. But in sports, we've done a little bit of everything. And there's certain sports that are really difficult to produce live shows for. So things like golf, cross country, outdoor track and field, rowing. Places that are hard to get to physically, cross country, right? The course is spread out over several miles on a golf course or a park. Traditionally, that requires a lot of cabling, a lot of preparation, a couple of days of advance work just to set up the show. Again, a lot of labor running cable. So those types of events all of a sudden become a lot easier with this at-home remote model because again, all we're doing at the venue, we're taking cameras and transmission units. We did a cross-country meet this past fall for the American Athletic Conference. That's traditionally been one of our most difficult events. With all the cable runs and just the difficulty getting signal around the venue, whether it's a park or a golf course. We showed up out there on site with several cameras and LiveU units. Some of them were in golf carts that were actually mobile, moving around the course. And we were able to deliver a really amazing show live on a cross-country meet with very limited infrastructure out on site. So this model is allowing us to take on more of these unique events that are traditionally really hard to produce. We just got a call from the city of Las Vegas to take a look at producing their live shows of their parades. That's something I probably never would have even thought of us trying to get into. That's extremely difficult if you think about a city where you've got cables running across major intersections and thousands of people. It's just a massive undertaking, very expensive, very difficult. Now we're looking at with this model, and we think we can do it very affordably. So this is leading to new opportunities with unique events that we otherwise wouldn't have even thought of. So one of the other things that we've noticed with this at-home model is that we're able to deliver better, more consistent, higher quality shows. Part of that is that, again, this fixed infrastructure here at the studio. This stays the same. It's the same crew doing the shows day in and day out. Things like the talent team, so our play-by-play and color announcer. If we're out in the field, we typically will have a different announcer team at every venue. With this at-home model, it's the same announcer team, it's the same crew doing every game. And so what happens is the shows get better. They're more consistent. The crew just gets used to working with each other. They're just better shows because everybody's working together, getting more repetitions. It also, for our customer, ends up creating more of a branded look and feel. The announcers become more familiar with the league, the teams, the players, the storylines. That lends itself. Again, the crew gets used to the games and the flow, and just everything about it becomes better. So not only are we saving money for the clients, but the shows end up being better with this model.
It's definitely a lot quieter. You're in an enclosed environment in a studio, and so you're not, in a video truck. I guess it's kind of the same. But if you're in the venue with a fly pack, you're fighting a lot of crowd noise. Even with our headsets on, it can still be pretty noisy. But here in the studio, it's a lot quieter. It's very similar because if we're in a video truck somewhere, we're still isolated from the arena. So now we're just in a studio, and I'm going off my screens in front of me. And, it always helps when I have great camera operators working with me. But it's very similar to just being in a video truck.
And then how do you feel about that?
Yeah, there's definitely more time for family time with this remote model. When we're doing these 15-game packages with basketball or 10-game package with baseball, sometimes we're doing those games on back-to-back days, or there's only a day between, so we don't even come home. We're out traveling around quite a bit, but with this remote model, it's almost like going into your 9-to-5 job every day.
Well, doing what we do, it's already hard enough to know what day of the week it is. Now we wonder what city we're technically in, but what we also know for sure is that by the end of the night, we'll be sleeping in our own bed. There's a certain comfort in that in a rigorous schedule in broadcasting. But in terms of the experience, especially with this production crew in particular, where the communication has been so clear and things have been thought out in advance, it's a very similar experience. You still talk to the coaches during the week. You ask all the questions, knowing going into it what you need to address with you and your analysts during a broadcast. Everything is pretty similar, and thanks to some of the advancements that our particular crew has been able to make, even the little finer details that you would get at a game, for the most part, are there at your fingertips.
Screens and in the venue at times?
Sometimes when you over prep for a game or you want to get into too many stories, you overlook that what the people at home see is on that monitor. And this helps you, again, regain that focus, emphasizing what you see is what they see. And there's actually fewer distractions now that you are emphasizing what is on that monitor in front of you.
As the engineer of this project, there's a lot of work that has to be done on set, set up and tear down, and of course things that get broken along the way. So by being able to set up in studio, you set it up once and you can leave it. And you don't have all the issues of breakdowns, etc., because it's all right in front of you. And also you have a lot of control over temperature because you're all in studio. And so it's a lot easier to get home at night and a lot easier to get to work. So from a consistency perspective, by being already set up, obviously as an engineer, there's always little tweaks you're trying to make, and it's easy to come in on your day off and think about, oh, let's try this tweak because there's a new this or a new that out or whatever, or this didn't quite work the way you thought it might work, and you can tweak those things in between shows. Okay, let's look at the connections between the venues and the studio. So there's a LiveU unit that has to go with every camera, of course, that then gets fed over either cellular or Ethernet. And it comes into our server in studio, all synced together perfectly, and all works together. And you looking at the view, you wouldn't know we were not on venue.
What I really appreciate about LiveU is it's just worry-free. I've been around other solutions that are so-called at-home or remote. I've looked at other solutions, and this by far to me is the most streamlined, the easiest to use, the most consistent, and it just takes all of the worry out of the equation. Most of the other solutions out there require internet connectivity in the venue. And that's always the place where things break down. We get out there into these venues and you've got an IT department that is not used to this kind of thing. In a lot of cases, it's not even the IT department. It's an outsourced third-party company that works for the organization or for the school or the campus. And they certainly don't have any experience doing this thing. So there's a lot of issues out there in venues with regards to getting proper connectivity. So of course we try to get LAN connectivity in the venues whenever possible, but the beautiful thing with LiveU with the cellular bonding is that if we don't get bandwidth or bandwidth goes down, or maybe there's a certain portion of the venue that we can't get a connection to, it doesn't matter. We can still get our signals out because we've got cellular bonding. So I just love that aspect of it, that we can roll into any venue anywhere in the country and know without a doubt that we're going to get our streams out because we're not reliant 100% on that in-venue connectivity. The other thing about LiveU is their back-end portal, LU Central, is really elegant. I can be anywhere in the country managing all of these backpacks all over the country. So we can have multiple events going on all over the country, 4 or 5 different venues, 4 or 5 different cities. And I can literally, from anywhere with an internet connection, be in front of LU Central on a laptop, managing all of that, starting and stopping each camera stream from each venue, managing where they get routed, multiple distribution points. So the back-end management through LU Central is just unbelievable. It's second to none as far as the management of the infrastructure. And then finally, it just works. I mean, literally, the cameras are connected to backpacks. We power them up. The server gets powered up at the studio, and there they are. It just works. As long as there's connectivity of one sort or another, whether that's LAN, wireless, or cellular, the streams are going to get to the studio, and we're producing a show in minutes.
So first off, I had my doubts about doing the whole remote model when we first tested it out. Being on the replay side of things, you always worry about, are your cameras going to be synced? Is something going to drop out? Is anything like that going to happen? And then when we did the initial test during a rugby game, it worked flawlessly. And that got me extremely excited. And it put away all my worries, any doubts that I ever had about the system. So fast forward to where we're at now, it's great. I come in, I build the shows, and just get everything done and ready with no setup is awesome. You know, there's no cables to run, there's no trying to figure out who's, you know, where we're gonna get power from, you know, the little odds and ends things that some people don't think about when you're setting up that are time consuming. So being able to come here with everything set up and you know what you're doing and everything's right there, it's the best versus being in a venue, you have to lug all the equipment in, you gotta find the right people to talk to, where you're gonna set up, how you're gonna run your cable. The remote model, I love it. I think it's one of the best things out there right now, and we get to go home every night. When we used to have to go out to do shows on venue, it was very time consuming because you got to figure you need a day to travel there and set up, and then you're doing the game the next day, you're striking, you're packing everything up, and then you're driving home or you're driving to the next game. So it could take you 3 days, sometimes 4 depending where you're going, to do one game. And now with the remote model, we just come to the studio and we can do 3 to 4 games in one day.